Hey, I'm Carson from Team 5203G Gremlin, and this is an explanation video for our version 2 hang robot. A lot of you guys may have seen our tier 3 hang at Haunted. Tragic Falls. It performed pretty well at local tournaments. It was fun to work on because we were basically adapting a first concept into VEX, and we had custom linear slides and continuous string routing, which I'm going to go through today in this video. But this was the second version of the robot to try and improve some things that needed improving. You can see off the bat it's really dense, very compact. There's a lot going on. So we'll start with the drivetrain. We have a 6-motor drive. It's a 450 RPM drivetrain. To make gearing really easy, we run these 36-tooth gears. You can see that we actually use high strength gears in the middle so we can offset this gear. I'll explain the reason for that in a little bit. We have these plexi pieces. That helps keep everything meshed together, just so that when we're under all the torque needed for hanging, we're not stripping anything. And then you can see on the other side, it's the same thing. We have the battery mounted sideways because our hooks actually go really low, which works very well for transfer between hooks. We have a counter roller. The reason for that was to keep the intake barely out of the front of the robot. It's a lot easier to do that with the counter roller than it is with a ramp. And you can see we have really smooth intake pickup and transfer. So that was a really nice feature of this robot. We run these plexi pieces. They just bend a little bit whenever the intake comes in. And then we run a 2-motor intake. We still don't have a wall stick smack on this robot. It was kind of an experimental idea that we could hang, and that kind of combats the need for wall sticks. And that shows in scoring if you analyze it. And so the gearing for this is pretty simple. We have these gearboxes on the outside, 36 to 36. This chain run goes to the intakes. It's pretty close to the pivot, so we don't need a tensioner. And then on the inside, we have this hook stage that goes all the way across that allows us to superstructure everything instead of running the traditional intake structure. And then we have the chain that goes down to the roller. The brain mount is in the intake, but because it's not sideways, this is completely legal because the button's accessible. And then on the top, we run 3-inch flex wheels, and that just helps get everything around more. And that's just on the back side of the towers that are actually for the hang system. And obviously we got a super basic Mogo mech, nothing crazy. 2-piston, 3-wide with 2 hooks on it. Then we got a nice, very strong structure in our drivetrain. That way when we inevitably fall from testing, we don't suffer too much damage. We have 2 high strength axles, and then those go all the way across. So when it actually comes to the hang, that's probably the reason why you guys clicked this video. We have a PTO. The PTO runs on 1 central high strength shaft. It's really difficult to see just because of how much is going on in this robot. But you can see the 1 central high strength shaft in there, and it runs all the way across the robot. That helps us mesh these 2 gears into the drive very easily. We have these pistons with discs on. It's pretty standard PTO. We can shift in, and then it's engaged. Same for the other side. Just shift in and get the drive moving a little bit. It's a little bit tight right now. So we have that, and then when we drive backwards, the lift actually goes up. I can show this a little bit easier. So when we drive backwards, the string unwinds and the lift goes up. This side of the PTO is having trouble engaging, so no, there we go. So we go up, and it extends all the way up like that. This will help us see the linear slide system really well. So basically, the concept for the linear slides is we use these rollers to remove friction, and anywhere where there is metal to metal touching, there's a plexi piece. So you can see, for example, on the inside of this bar, there's a plexi piece right here. On the inside of that bar, there's a plexi piece right here. We use these plexi pieces to keep the slides from moving side to side. And then we also use these plexi pieces to do the same thing for the first slide. There's rollers, 4 rollers on each slide at the top and the bottom. There's not really a need for middle rollers because throughout the motion, that doesn't really matter that much. And then in terms of the actual string routing, it's one of the most complicated things we had to figure out, but it was fun at first and then it wasn't fun. But our string routing is pretty cool and unique. So we run our string going through the bottom where the high strength shaft is down here. It goes up around a pulley right here to direct it to where it needs to go. Then it goes up to this top roller on the stationary slide, around this roller on the bottom of the middle slide, around the top roller on the middle slide, and then up to the top, just like that. And then for the pull down string, we just have this string that comes straight down and goes to the shaft down here. And then we actually run tensioners on our string. So essentially, the tensioners allow us to keep everything nice and even when it's pulling down. So we have these little plexi pieces and they're rubber banded back and they just pull the string. And then we have this roller or big piece right here to keep the string in line and then also to stop it from breaking. Then we have these, same thing, on the pull down string. You can see it right there. And then same thing on the other side. There is about 180 custom plexi pieces on this robot. It's a lot of small parts, but it was really useful to CAD everything beforehand. I definitely wouldn't have been able to do a robot like this if we didn't. And then for the guide rails, which is one of another important parts of the hang. As we hang, we actually flip around the bar because our hang is centered. And so something unique about that is that we actually have to run these guide rails. So if I just engage the PTO real quick. Yeah. Yeah, they can. So you can see that whenever we have these passive hooks that I'll explain in a second, but whenever we grab onto the next tier and then start pulling up, we actually, things are slipping out of pace because I didn't pump it with air. But basically what happens is we actually rotate around the bar and follow along this angle right here. The steeper the angle, the easier it is. And then we end up on the intake angle, which actually has this cutout so it transfers nice and smooth. I only have one hand, so I can't really show that. So anyways, but you guys get the point. And then when we actually get to the next tier, we transfer onto the next tier so that we can lift up the lift again using these passive hooks. And so they are rubber banded. They actually have a double pivot system. So they pivot down like this, and these little fingers also pivot down, and that lowers the profile of everything so that it can go in really smooth. We use string hard stops on a ton of things just because it makes everything really easy to deal with. And then we also have a rush mech. So for our rush mech, this claw comes down, and then we have this pulley on the bottom that's free spinning that rides the ground just so that it's nice and smooth. And then we have this piston mounted on top, and that can act as a clamp. And similar to good tipping point rush mechs, that clamp is made in a way to where when we're down and we're driving into a mobile goal, we have this lip on bottom so that it has something to push down into, and then it clamps down, and that actually gives it a slight tilt, which gives us an advantage compared to other rushing teams. And then that's just rubber banded back up. But yeah, it's really compact, really complex, but pretty cool. And so we thought we wanted to share some cool aspects about it. If you have any questions, just feel free to leave them in the comments. But yeah, ultimately, it's a pretty cool robot. A lot of fun to build, a lot of fun to design. Took a total of about 6 months to get to the point that we're at. But yeah.